Trigger warning. This episode may discuss one or more of the following topics: violence, death, including that of people of Indigenous descent, war, abuse, medical issues, self-harming behaviour, eating disorder behaviour or body shaming, drug and alcohol addiction, sexual activity, hate speech or strong abusive language, discrimination, and stereotypes. These potential topics have remained part of the episode as it forms part of the interviewee's story, which cannot be accurately told without including such information. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. G'day and welcome to another episode of Spectrum Uncensored. Today I have with me Akita from Brisbane. How's it going?
Hey, good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining me today. Now we're going to talk a little bit about what you've been diagnosed with and when you were diagnosed.
Yeah, so I guess I was probably diagnosed in 2011, which was, I would have been about 21-ish. Who knows? Age is just a number, right? But yeah, diagnosed with an array of neurodiverse things. So autism, dyscalculia, sensory processing. I've also got a dissociative disorder, which is great fun. But yeah, so that's about it.
Yeah, and how does that affect you in your day-to-day life? I mean, myself, from my point of view, I'm neurodiverse too, and I'm autistic with ADHD, and I find that comorbid relationship between those two things is a lot, but you've got quite a rap sheet, so to speak.
Yes, indeed. I guess day-to-day is actually, it depends on the day. It's difficult some days, other days it's not. Some days I feel normal and I'm like, hey, look, I'm cured. And then it's like, no, that was definitely misleading.
Yeah, it's like that meme. Have you seen it where there's a person with like, I did normal person stuff today, and she's got like a banner across that just says normal person. Like...
Yeah, actually I had a admission into a private hospital once, and they gave out like little stickers, and it's like, you accomplished this today, and it was so cute, but it was also like, maybe you shouldn't, guys.
That's like a little condescending.
Yeah, but it was still really cute. It actually made us all like have a joke, and
that
like,
is, yeah,
broke the ice.
They meant well, right? They meant well.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. Like, I get quite frustrated when people use high functioning and low functioning as a descriptor, because some days I'm really high functioning and then the next day I'm like, oh no, I can't do any of this. Like, back to bed I go.
Or even some hours.
Yeah, it can. Yeah. It can vary from, you can be high functioning and low functioning in the same day. It really depends on, what's going on.
Yeah, and it also, for me, I find that it depends on like how much I've had to like use masking for the day, or how many people I've interacted with, or how much noise is around, all the fun stuff. Yeah,
and I think like my son's got sensory processing disorder on top of his autism and his ADHD, and some days he'll be able to cope with loud noises, but then other days not so much. And I mean, he's nonverbal, so unfortunately I can't have like full-on conversations with him and ask him, why are you feeling this way this time but you didn't last time? And I don't even know if you'd be able to articulate it anyway. It's kind of, I don't know if there's any method to the madness. Like,
well, even as an adult, I can't articulate it. I can't like explain to my partner. I can't go, hey, that noise is really bugging me today, or I can't handle that. It's hard.
Yeah, and I find too, like I get in real hyper-focus mode for cleaning and stuff, but if I'm not in that mode, I can't do it. And it's the same with, I was reading through your profile that you sent through, and you were talking about the washing and having to dry it, like forgetting to dry it and having to wash it like 5 times. I do that all the time. Like I'll put it in there and I'll be like,
I'm not alone.
I'll get down there 3 days later and be like, how long has this been in here? I forgot to dry it.
Yeah. We had to actually buy like a scent booster, because like the washing would get washed so many times and it would have like old water in there, and it's like, oh man, okay, we need to add something to make this smell good again.
Yep.
It's so bad. But like I just completely, it's not that I can forget either. Like sometimes I know and it's in the back of my mind, but I just don't have the energy or the tools to be able to cope with, you know, touching the wet washing and then opening the dryer, that's noisy, then listening to the dryer for an hour and a half, like
Yep.
all
Yeah.
the
If my husband
things.
puts the dryer on at night, I'm like, why did you do that? I'm now lying in bed listening to the dryer going and not being able to sleep.
Yeah,
Like, yeah. And
yeah, I
I
get
think,
that.
so you said you were diagnosed around 21 years old. So what made you
Yeah.
actually want to or seek a diagnosis? Like, was it to do with your childhood? Did you like kind of go through that and think?
I had childhood wasn't great. So
Yep.
I was definitely an outcast and I had a lot of emotional and social issues, I guess. And that people just didn't seem to understand why I couldn't be flexible on some things. Like, I remember for my 16th birthday, for example, I decided I was going to have a huge party and try and get to know people, and I had a
Yep.
meltdown within 15 minutes. And
Yep.
there was like 40 people there.
That's a
And I'm
lot.
like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, now what? Because I want all these people to leave my house.
Yep.
And I had to just kind of power through. But as I got older, it became more and more difficult. It was harder to explain to people what was going on. And I feel like now that there's like a banner overview of what's going on, I can just say, hey, the autism's getting in the way today. Can we
Yep.
back off a bit? And people kind of understand that better than I'm not coping.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an explanation, I guess. Not that you owe anyone an explanation, but
No, but it seems to make it easier. Yeah.
yeah, people think it's like, I don't know, justification is probably not the right word because like everyone's entitled to feel like not into something that day, but I
Yeah.
know what you're saying. It's
Yeah. And I wouldn't like just give a diagnosis to anyone. Like I wouldn't just say, oh, it's just because of this today.
yeah.
But like people that I know, I can go, hey, this is what's happening for me. And actually a couple of my friends actually say it for me now. It's like, hey, she's actually nonverbal right now. You need to back off a little bit. And that really helps because I've been able to communicate that little step in between.
Yeah. 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 And I think too, when we're children, it's almost like it's a little bit more forgivable. Like, I don't, that's probably not even the word
Yeah.
either, but people are just like, oh, they're just having a moment because they're little. But when you get to adulthood,
Yeah.
people are like, what is wrong with you? Like, are you okay? Like, you having a
Yeah.
stroke or something? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Speaking of being children, like I've got a foster daughter and she has just recently been diagnosed, and it's really hard to make the distinction, and even for me as an adult, between trauma and like the diagnoses, and it makes it really hard to kind of know how to manage the situation without triggering it and making it worse, because you don't know if it's coming from trauma or if it's coming from the diagnosis.
Yeah, I've gone through that myself. That's what actually pushed me to get diagnosed because I was like, is it childhood trauma or was I just born differently or is it a bit of both? I don't know. So it's funny because everyone I've spoken to so far has said something very similar. It seems to be a real trend in the neurodivergent community with people trying to work out where it's coming from, and as I said, sometimes it's both, and then you could be getting triggered by one thing because of your neurodivergence, and then getting triggered by something else because of your trauma, and then you're just like, it's very messy.
It like loads on top of each other.
Yeah, it's very chaotic.
There's other circumstances where it's like you've been triggered from the trauma, and then the diagnosis comes in, and then the trauma is like people are like responding to you in a trauma way, and you're like, hang on, no, this is just me not coping. Like it's okay. I'm okay. It's not, you don't have to be so gentle with me. Like
it muddies the waters a bit, but
it does.
It also clears the waters a bit. It's it's a catch-22 situation, isn't it?
Yeah. And until you like actually get to know someone, you're never going to know what's going on. And like for my foster daughter, especially, like she's 6 years old, and she's actually just been able to start like saying when things are from bad things or whether they're from her brain. And I think that's a really good place to start.
definitely, like, emotions and stuff like that are already kind of hard to grasp those concepts, especially as children. And then even into adulthood, it can be difficult trying to work out, I'm feeling something, but what am I feeling, and why am I feeling it?
And why? Yeah.
Yeah, and then trying to find a way to cope with that should it happen again. One of my friends, daughters can only, her daughter can only describe emotions with colors.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah, she doesn't say happy or sad. She just will say, I'm feeling blue today, or I'm feeling green today. And, that's
That
her
makes
way of,
perfect sense, though.
yeah, it's really interesting. And, I mean, I find with colors and things like that, just in experiences with my son, it's always been like red means bad and green means good,
Yeah.
but that's not necessarily the case. Like, I'll always, he communicates with a device and PEX cards and things like that, but too often a bad choice is represented as red, and then that's also like represents angry and things, but then you start thinking angry means bad, but it doesn't. It's just a feeling, and
No.
it's like what you do with the emotion as to whether or not it's good or bad. So
Absolutely. And
it's so confusing.
anger is definitely something that we need in our life to be able to feel all emotions and stuff. So if we start not feeling anger, it's like, oh no.
There's that almost like that being encouraged to suppress instead of just let it all out and get it out. And then of course we bottle it up, and I feel like neurodivergent people, bottling it up is like 10 times worse than a neurotypical person
It's
bottling
not a good
it up.
idea.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to explode and it's not going to look good, or feel good even. So it's definitely, I don't think people, there's so many myths around like what a meltdown is and what a tantrum is and things like that. People don't seem to really know the difference, and it's not that hard to tell the difference if you know what you're looking at.
Exactly. My mother is a prime example of not knowing the difference. When my foster daughter first came into my care, Mum just basically thought she was a naughty child and that she was disrespecting us and that she was entitled and all these things. And I'm like, hang on a second. You know, one, she's in the foster system, so she's been through some stuff,
Yeah.
And two, like, we had to fight to try and get her diagnosis. But as soon as we got the appointment, they were like, yeah, absolutely. And it was just like, okay, Mum can back off a little bit now.
Yep.
And as soon as she heard it, she was like, oh, I'm sorry. And it's like, but you still should be treating people with respect and stuff anyway. So it's very frustrating.
I talk about that a lot too, like how quick people are to judge. And it's not anyone's fault as such. Like, that's kind of human nature. We do it even when we don't mean to. And I don't think any of us can sit there and say we've never judged a person in our entire life. We do.
Absolutely not, yeah.
It's kind of what you do with that, and whether or not you then educate yourself on why you made that judgment and why it wasn't a fair judgment. If you're going to grow from the judgments, then that's different. But I've never really appreciated people that make those judgments and then don't go and try and educate themselves further to, for personal growth, I suppose. But
it's basically the same as like the cycle of, you could use it as the cycle of abuse, anything. It kind of gets passed down through generations. And if you don't stop it and go, hang on, what is going on here? Why did I make that judgment? And can I be better?
Yeah,
and
it's
that's
the whole
what changes it.
Not being born to hate and things like that. Like, it all starts at home, and it's the same as like when they say that often kids with disabilities, and even just neurotypical kids, if they've come from a harsher environment and things, it's usually their parents that are their first bullies. It's not the big kid at school that likes to push them around. It's actually stemming from the house. So
absolutely. And then they start internalizing and being their own bully as well, because that's what they've been taught.
Yeah, exactly. And I do definitely empathize with that whole, they're just a naughty child, they're spoiled. I my son got, oh, he's just a boy. It's a boy thing. I'm like, it's not a boy thing. There's something going on. But just like, yeah, being so blasé about it, people are so quick to just explain it away instead of actually looking at it, and understanding it and researching about things and trying to better their understanding of the way certain things work, because our world, it looks completely different to a neurotypical world, but we have to live in the neurotypical world, so we're constantly trying to change that world to help us be able to cope, but it's usually without very much success, unfortunately, but it's mainly because we're not getting that support to to change, to make changes and things like that. So, I mean, everyone should feel safe in the world, and everyone should feel included and, loved and things like that. So it's definitely a very important thing for us to, be heard about, I suppose.
Yeah, and it should be nurtured, like the people wanting to be part of a group and part of anything, and like, I know when I was at school and stuff, I was never part of anything. I was always picked last, or I was, don't pick her because she'll make it difficult.
Yep.
And it was heartbreaking every day, And I had one instance where I was, how you'd like present a speech at school. Yep. And I actually fainted because I was that anxious. Like, I just fainted. And then people, when I came to, people were actually making fun of me for fainting. And it was like, hang on, no, this is severe anxiety, not
it's just, that's just so
making
cool.
it hard.
Yeah, and then people say you're dramatic and things like that too, and that they're just bunging it on because they don't want to do it. And it's, I just don't understand why people feel that need to just beat people down all the time instead of actually just help and embrace them for who they are and be like, what do you need,
One of the teachers
courtesy
was fantastic, though, I must say. She recognized it straight away, and she was just like, okay, we're not making you do speeches. You can video record yours and hand them in that way.
That's really cool.
I was like, hey, this is the kind of teachers we should have in our schools.
Yeah.
So.
Because obviously, like both of us went to mainstream schools. So, I mean, growing up in my primary school, it was mainstream, but there was an autism unit. So I was exposed to autism quite young, but it was very much like the majority of those students were nonverbal, and, there was a lot of, I guess, body movements. There was a lot of flapping and things. It kind of, I don't like low functioning and high functioning, but it would be defined as the lower end of this lower functioning end of the spectrum. So I did get exposed to that, but I guess society kind of will paint this picture of like you're either really low functioning and you're like drooling and you can't talk and you can't control your body, or you're a genius. Like, they don't talk about the middle bit. Like,
the middle bit where we're just trying to get through every day.
Yeah. So they like either glorify it in movies and things like that with these geniuses that can, do calculus in their brain, or they're showing you like 10. Rain Man. There's no. So because people, that's where that kind of misconception comes in, because they'll look at you and they'll be, you're not autistic. Like, you don't do this and this. And it's like, no, but that's not autism. That's part of like the spectrum of it. But I also don't like it when people say everyone's a little bit autistic, because that's so not true.
No, absolutely not. Like, I know so many people that aren't at all, and you're like, you don't have it easy. You've still got a lot going on, but it's definitely different, isn't it?
Yeah, and people will say, oh, I must be autistic because I do this. And it's like, no, that's one trait. That doesn't make you autistic.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot more involved.
There's a lot of traits that are just human traits. It's just when they affect your ability to function that it comes into
yeah, I think they get personality traits mixed up with, like, what actual autistic traits are.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I don't know. Yeah, they're just, it's same with like OCD and things like that. It's like, oh yeah, every time I do this, I have to do this, so I must have OCD. It's like, no. Is it debilitating? Like, are you like literally struggling to get out of bed every morning because something's not right? no, that's not OCD.
Yeah.
So it is. It's there's a lot of misconception out there and a lot of myths, and that's definitely something that needs to be highlighted because, yeah, people are going around self-diagnosing in a sense that they don't really know what they're talking about and they haven't really researched it. They're just going, oh, yeah, well, I saw this thing where if you have this, then, you know.
Yeah, and it kind of minimizes it and makes it, like, seem, like, for me, when people do that, because I've had people come up to me and ask me and they go, do you think I'm autistic as well? And it's like, it's not my job to diagnose you, but actually, no, I don't, because...
Yep.
You literally just came up to me and asked a question out of the blue and you're not, like, anxious about it and you're not like, what's going on? And
yep.
You haven't actually done any research about it either. Like, there's just red flags. And it's like, come on, guys.
Yeah. And I think...
Stop minimising it for the people that have it.
Yeah, I think it's almost like some people want to be diagnosed with it for, like, I don't know, some sort of, not notoriety, but, like... it's like it's a fashion accessory or something, and it's like it's really not. Like, if you're genuinely neurodivergent, it's not a fashion accessory. It's a lifelong struggle. And, but
like I've got the dissociative disorder on top of all of it. Yay. But, like, I've noticed that more and more people are like, hey, I dissociate, and it's like, yeah, everyone dissociates. It's when it is, like, life-changing and it's making, like, an impact on your life that it becomes an issue.
Yeah.
But people don't understand that. They're like, oh, I zoned out driving from A to B. Does that mean I've got dissociation? And it's like, I mean, you did kind of dissociate, but not really.
Yeah. No, that's, yeah.
So, yeah. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think, like, I've got PTSD with some disassociation, so I can definitely relate to that. Like, I get really bad. It's usually some songs that trigger me because I was actually talking to my psych about this today, and we're trying to work through that. But certain songs will trigger me, and if I can't get to the radio to turn it off or whatever, I black out, and then I will wake up somewhere else, and I've like literally teleported from one place to another. And have no idea and no recollection of how I got there. And it's scary. It's funny, like, really scary.
Funny you should say that. So obviously I live in Brisbane, but I've ended up in Melbourne before. Yeah.
Wow. That's a long dissociation.
It was a flight.
Yeah.
So I somehow managed to get to the airport. My car was found at the airport.
Yep.
And then I was found in Melbourne by my parents. So that was interesting.
So did you just kind of, like, I won't say, like, wake up or come to, but you know what I mean? Did you just, like...
Yeah, it was when someone called me and I just answered the phone as normal and they were like, where are you? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And then I looked at a street sign and I'm like, yeah, no, still don't know. And, like, I'd been in Victoria a few times and I ended up actually having to find someone that was in a taxi rank and they were like, you're here. And I was just like, okay, this is bad.
So
and
it wasn't even
into,
at the airport?
Full panic. No.
You didn't actually, like,
I left the airport and everything, but I went into full panic after that and then basically dissociated again, ended up in hospital. But, you know, at least... like, I'm in one piece, I'm okay, and it's a funny story now, but, like, man, it's
that's
real.
Terrifying.
Like,
I don't think people realise just what it's actually like. Because, I mean, obviously people do joke about it and make fun of it, but it is very, very scary. And I've only had that one episode, and I don't know, maybe it's because I've worked out my triggers and I know how to, for the most part, avoid them. I don't use the radio at all in the car or anything like that anymore. That particular incident happened when I was at work. I worked as a security guard in a shopping centre, and it came over the PA, so there's nothing I could have done.
No.
So I was in the shopping centre working, and then all of a sudden I was outside, and I was like, I don't know how I got here. I don't remember travelling here. And that's when I realised that that's what had happened. I'd literally just, like, blacked out and gone onto autopilot and made my way out and away from the sound.
It's scary because you've got to kind of try to piece together what happened, and like when you look back at it, you're like, yeah, I'll actually never really know what happened. Cause
I don't know. I've only been drunk once because I have, I need control of things, so I generally don't go that far. But I often wonder if it's like being really blackout drunk and not remembering any pieces in between. Like when I was drunk this one time, I have holes in my memory, but I remember bits and pieces, mainly me insulting people and doing the stupid stuff that I would normally not do when I'm sober. But I often wonder if it's like that. Is it like blacking out, being blackout drunk?
Like in my younger years, I got drunk a fair bit because it was easier than dealing with everything, But I don't actually remember ever getting to the stage where I was like, oh, I don't remember. But in saying that, a lot happened that I don't remember, and I just assumed it was.
I mean, you might have been drunk and dissociating, so and then you've
double
got
whammy.
No chance. Yeah. And I think too, from what I've heard about people that get like blind drunk, they start to piece together bits and pieces later, whereas I still don't remember anything about that time that I blacked out. So maybe we just don't get the pieces of memory back, whereas people that get drunk do. I don't know, or it could be. It's probably varies from person to person.
That'd be an interesting thing to find out about, wouldn't it?
Yeah, like do a comparison study or something. I don't know.
People would be like, what is going on here?
Yeah. I often wonder about things like that and try to find a way to relate it in a way that maybe neurotypical people can understand, but there never seems to be anything that you can really give them that holistic, example. I mean, they'd have to live it, really, wouldn't they? So it's that makes it hard too, because I can understand why people can't relate necessarily to what you're saying, but just because you can't understand it doesn't mean that you can't try to understand it and be accepting of it and appreciate the difference and be mindful. I find that there's some judgy people out there.
Like, again, it all comes down to respect, doesn't it? Like, and I know,
and we're human beings.
Yeah, exactly. And I know some people are like, oh, respect is earned, and it's like, no, you should automatically have respect unless it gets taken away.
I feel like I try to trust people. Like, I have serious trust issues, but I try my best to trust people until they kind of prove that they can't be trusted. And it's the same kind of thing. You should just respect everyone.
But again, is that us being neurodivergent? Because
maybe. I just think we're cooler and we're nicer. Like, maybe that's all it is.
No,
I was having that conversation yesterday. Yeah. Like, I just feel like we embrace difference because we're so used to being different. So we're just like, that tick, that's cool, whatever. Whereas, neurotypical people, I don't know, like, I'm not a neurotypical person, so I can't really speak for them, but just from observation, it's like they just feel like everything should be a certain way. Like, they always say we're black and white, but I don't know about that. I don't know.
That's a them issue.
I think that's their way of labeling us, in a sense, like to say we're black and white, but I don't think it is. Like, we're quite black and white when it comes to things like what's right and what's wrong. And like justice and things like that, I feel. But I don't know. I just feel like that's a better way to go, really.
Well, they
it's
also
good or it's bad.
Tend to make excuses, don't they, too?
They've got the loopholes. I feel like they've got the loopholes with that stuff. But I definitely feel like collectively as a community, neurodivergent people are more accepting, and they'll embrace, and they're supportive. Like, they lift each other up. You see all these neurotypical people trying to like step over each other to get in front, whereas we're just like, oh, you couldn't do this today, what can I do to help you, because I've been there before. And I don't know.
I always think there's like a friend overdrive too. It's like something that you can't usually do. Like, for me, it's make phone calls, right?
I hate phone calls.
Right. But then if someone else can't do it and they look to me and they go, can you make the phone call? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And there's like that friend override where you just go in and do the thing for the other person. So it's not that we can't do it. It's just that it's
It's I
it's
don't
just
know.
not
I know
possible
what you're
sometimes,
saying.
and then other times it is.
It's kind of like work and stuff. I've been talking to a lot of people. They're saying like they can go to work and do the thing, but then if they need to do that thing at home, they can't do it.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like cleaning. And I use the example of when I was growing up, I'd stay back at school and help clean up classrooms and stuff. My mum was like, "You don't do this at home. Why don't you clean your room at home?" And I'm like, "I
Yeah.
don't know, but I do it at school. So does that count?" So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? That I don't know if you do it, but if someone's like, you can call or email, I'm like, I'll email even if it takes 3 days for a response,
email.
and I could
Yeah.
like make a phone call and have a response in 3 seconds. But no.
Yeah,
And then
let's avoid that at all costs.
and then I love it when they email you back and they go, please call the office to discuss further, and you're like, I think I'll just find someone else that'll do it via email. I don't want to call.
Yeah, or I just reply to the email. Quite often now, I've started with psychology help. I've started responding to the email and going, I actually can't email. Like I can't take a phone call. I need it in writing.
Yeah.
And more often than not, people are like, yeah, okay, but they just take longer to reply.
Yes, and they're just like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I kind of just explain, like, you know, a couple of times I've used the I've got no credit so I can't call. But like other times I'm like, actually no, I can't do this. So can you just email me? Or if it's not urgent, I'll call you another time.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, I even thought like doing this podcast would be quite challenging because of that fact. Like people go, yep, I can do this, and then they get to doing it and they go, I can't do this. Like so far I've only had one person say they can't.
I had a mild panic attack.
Yeah. But it's funny. I've only had one person like, you know, say, no, I can't do this. And I've just gone, okay, well, you know, when you're ready, I'll be here. But I think once people start doing it, they actually love it. Like it's just a conversation. It's nothing, you know, scary or I mean, I shouldn't say it's nothing scary because it's going to be scary to somebody. I was having panic attacks in the beginning and was very nervous, but now I do it every day. I'm interviewing one person a day and I'm really, really enjoying it because I'm meeting new people. And then you're having a lot of those aha moments, like when you're talking to someone, you're like, oh, we're like the same, different, but the same. And it makes you feel less alone, I feel.
Yeah.
And it's from the comfort of our own homes.
Exactly. And I know, like, before this, I was, like, freaking out. I was freaking out. Yeah. But, like, during the conversation, I'm just like, yeah, no, this all makes sense. And I feel like I've accomplished something. So that's good. That's my accomplishment for the day. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I get to the end and everyone's like, I'll come back anytime. And I'm like, that's great. Like, if I can just make people even feel comfortable doing this, as you say, it's an accomplishment. It really is because this is not something I saw myself ever doing. But I just thought, you know, I'm going to push myself out of my comfort zone and give this a crack because I'm generally like, I am a people person, but I'm not at the same time. Like, I have my limitations.
Person, but with the kind of people you want to be a people person with.
Yeah, and it's that unknown of like, I'm going to get in a conversation with someone I have no idea about. But every time I speak to someone, time I speak to someone, I'm like, I'm really glad I got to know that person, and it just feels like I just know another awesome human in the world. Like, it's just, I don't know.
That's very cool.
I'm being all sentimental now, but
no, it's very cool though. It is very cool, and you should feel like you're accomplishing something too. So
yeah, I do. I definitely do. So do you have any advice for adults that are undiagnosed but suspect to maybe they've self-diagnosed, thinking, oh, I'm on the spectrum somewhere, or I've got this, or what would you say to them? I guess
I guess the main thing would be to like not give up, because there's a lot of people out there that will say no to even letting assessments happen. And I feel like that's really unfair when you're the only one that knows yourself. And if you're struggling with stuff and it is making an impact on life, then the diagnosis can help. Like, it can make things make sense in your head for the first time in your life. And you go, oh, that's why I'm acting this way. And it makes you feel less crazy because it's not just happening to you. It's like, okay, there's a reason for it. And I feel like that's really helpful.
Yeah, it's that self-discovery thing, isn't it? Like, it's more
Absolutely.
like it's that knowledge is power thing. It's for yourself. It's not for anybody else.
No. In saying that, there's also a lot of services out there that will help once
Yes.
you do have the diagnosis. It sucks that they won't help without that damn piece of paper. But
Yeah.
like, there's, you know, NDIS, there's disability services, there's stuff like that. And
Yep.
I've got NDIS and they are actually helping. Like, I'm
Yep.
learning ways to function that I didn't, like, I can wash the dishes now because
Yep.
I've learned a way to do it, you know?
Yep.
So,
That works for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Exactly.
So.
It is definitely like everything's like very personalized, which I love because everybody is different. Neurotypical or neurodiverse, everyone's different. So
Absolutely.
it's, yeah, that should be the way it is with everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you very much for coming in and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, because I'm very happy that I got to talk to you and got to meet you. So I feel very privileged. And
thank you. I'm really glad that I went through with it. Yay me.
Yeah, yay you, definitely. And yeah, keep on chipping away at it because it sounds like you're doing amazing. Right. So
thank you.
I
appreciate it. I appreciate it. It's really hard for us to say that and admit it, isn't it? It's like,
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't like compliments, like,
no.
Even though we do, but we don't. Like,
yeah, it's
like
awkward.
yes, but no.
It's like, it's awkward. Yeah. Okay, bye now. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, you're welcome back anytime. And yeah, I'm very thankful to have gotten to have a chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No worries. Take care.